Hello and welcome to the Sands of Time review channel. It is your host Sammy Thunder, back at it once again with another one of my Watch Express videos. And here, as you can see today, we are looking at a offering from the brand Rado with the model the Rado Over-pole, which is a latest release from the brand. And you can probably tell by this design aesthetic in this video, Rado has released for us a GMT watch with a well-timed bezel that features a manual wind caliber featuring a 37mm Rado Captain Cook case that they have done before, but we now get it with the with a GMT kind of a function with a well-timed bezel. So it's nice to see that from the brand. We don't have a GMT hand, but we do have a 24-hour scale there with the inclusion of a well-timed bezel, and Rado have made this video to kind of go through how this functionality works. So Rado has, they've gone above and beyond, and they've showcased this video, which, the watch looks phenomenal. And being someone that has owned a Rado in the past, the 37mm Rado Captain Cook 1962 limited edition, so limited to 1962 pieces. I have a very good idea of how this watch will wear on the wrist, what are the pros and cons, and I kind of wanted to go through that with everyone here. So the Rado Over-pole itself is actually based off a vintage, it's essentially a vintage reissue, and this is the watch we're talking about here. And we can see it has this kind of sunburst silvery white dial, and they also released back in the day a full gold version of this with gilt indices and handsets and second hands, which looks phenomenal as well. But Rado have decided to reissue this watch with modern materials, which is nice. So being someone that has owned a Rado Captain Cook, I must say that just by looking at this watch here, I've noticed some differences, and you can probably tell just by if you look at the seconds hand, you can see there's curvature. And one thing about the Rado Captain Cook is it has a very nice boxed sapphire crystal, and it's unlike any other crystal I've actually experienced before. It's very clear, and you can definitely see distortions. And to help with that, Rado have actually curved the seconds hand and the minute hand, which is excellent taste for the requirements to be able to read the time under different conditions, which is a nice touch. And you can look at the indices, look at the depth of the indices, and you can tell there's a lot of work gone in there. They're applied indices obviously, and they have multiple facets to them. It's almost like Grand Seiko. And from my own experience of Rado watches, when you look through the dial, I never see quality control issues. I've never experienced dust in the dial, anything like that. It is done to perfection. It is very beautiful, and I do have a review up for a 37mm 1962 limited edition piece Rado Captain Cook, which you can go and watch later if you want to know more about how this case will feel. But some of the things to note with this watch is that it features a manual wind caliber, and this is actually a ETA 2801-2 caliber, which has been modified by the brand Rado, and they give you 80 hours of power reserve, which is phenomenal, through the use of a Nivicron hairspring technology, which they've used, and that they've been able to up that power reserve at the cost of the beat rate. So I believe the beat rate's around the 21,500 beats per hour. So it is a very slow beat. You will definitely notice the slower tick rate on the watch, especially when the watch, it's not a petite seconds, so there's no sub seconds. You will 100% notice the lower beat rate on the watch, the tick rate, sorry. And I would like to see this in person. To me personally, it doesn't really do much. Like, I'm happy that it actually boasts an 80-hour power reserve for a manual wind caliber, but for some people, they don't like to sacrifice something at the cost of this. So in this case, it's the tick rate to the power reserve. Do you need it? But yeah, it really doesn't matter. The performance is there and it's delivered by the brand, especially from a very prestigious brand like Rado that's part of the Swatch group. You'll get very good servicing, and you can tell here that they've done a little bit of decoration here. You do have the horizontally applied Coach de Genève. You do have that Rado Switzerland adjusted to 5 positions, which is nice, and they do mention the caliber, which they've called R862, but it's essentially just the EDA 2801-2 that's just modified, for performance sake. For all intents and purposes, this is a very nice looking movement as well. It's great to actually see manual wind caliber, that you can see from brand Rado, which is something I've not experienced in the past, but that's one thing to note. Now, looking at the watch here, I mean, this just looks phenomenal. You have a silvery dial, but it's degradé compared to the original, which is not. So it kind of fades into a blackish grey charcoal, and then towards the inside it's that white, and their sunburst dials are phenomenal. Dials on Rados are phenomenal. And there's a lot of attention to detail. You can see the color matched numerals on the date window. In this case, this is a purple and a red, but on my example, it was color matched. The high, you got the Dolphin handset that's high polish. It's, it really is phenomenal. And I've gone through how beautiful those indices are, and I'd like to see one in person. Now, one thing to notice when you do purchase this watch is one fundamental design flaw I've experienced with this watch. It's not really a reason I sold it, because the 37mm Rado Captain Cook that I owned, very similar to this one, but with a purpley dial, it's an automatic movement, the C07, pretty much a Powermatic 80 in it, and essentially I had problems with manually winding the caliber because it required a one finger operation. And look, that's fine, especially with vintage watches, smaller crowns, you probably would do that. But the reason why I say this is because from here to here you have a 37mm diameter, and the actual bezel of this watch is protruding, and it does impact the crown control in its standard positioning. So you really can't use the two fingers, so you will be forced to use one finger. And that's my only bit of concern, is because when I had the 37mm Rado Captain Cook, it was actually slightly painful to use. So it's non-luxurious to actually wind the watch. Maybe it's different for the manual wind, but I would highly recommend people to actually physically try on this watch and experience. I don't want people to have regrets, and this does form part of the reason why I sold the watch. The second reason I did is because it was way too small. The dial of the watch itself is from here to here, and a bezel does make up a portion of that. And on my 7.1 inch wrist, the 37mm and a 43.1mm lug to lug does feel a bit small. Now the spacing here is actually 19mm. So that's other, you got to have those 19mm straps, but it adds to the vintage charm. That is when you're trying to do a reissue, you want to kind of do it to perfection. I'm definitely happy with that design choice there, but just with crown operation is just one thing I would like people to just experience in person. So you have modern materials here. You have a excellent sapphire crystal that's box dome, and that features amazing anti-reflective coating. I'm telling you that this is done to perfection. You have your ceramic bezel instead of let's say featuring the aluminium bezel, and with the ceramic bezel you have white lacquer inlay. So this world time bezel, this thing isn't going to fade anytime soon. So it's great to have a vintage watch that is so modern. So and you can see already that the distortion on the date. It's just this watch is a charm to look at, 100% in terms of your wearability. It's just that as a manual wind watch, just be aware if you're ready to go through using one finger to manually wind the watch, and it probably is better, easier to wind, but that was just one of my experiences with the 37mm Rado Captain Cook. Apart from that, this is just a phenomenal watch, but I do think for smaller wrists, just a little bit of for larger wrists, there's a bit of a worry. If you're above 7.5 inches, this is probably going to be a bit too small with that 43 lug to lug, but around the 7-inch wrist, especially with the included bracelet beads of rice option. It can work, and you also have the leather strap option over there. So as you can see, 10mm thick, 37mm diameter, 43mm lug to lug. Watch's non-screw down crown with 100 meters of water resistance, limited to 1962 pieces, priced at a Swiss francs of 2,400, which is approximately 3,800 Australian dollars. So it is quite expensive there. So, but I mean, in terms of what it is, what it looks like, it's beautiful. The performance is great. It's up to you, really. It really is a unique watch. I think questions will be asked, and Rado is actually a pretty prestigious brand. It's very prominent in countries in South Asia and Asia in general. So that's one cool thing to note. People know about this brand, Rado. It is a mid-tier luxury offering. So it's great to have something from the brand, and I do think in the watch community it is very underrated. But that, guys, is my overview of the Rado Captain Cook Over-pole. Let me know what you guys think down below in the comment section. Thank you for watching. Bye.